Another edition, a Friday edition of the NBA Exchange. I'm Dexter Henry, and we are getting closer to the offseason. Only a couple days, a couple games left in the NBA regular season. But all the talk in the world right now is about a different offseason that is involving J. Cole's new album, which is pretty damn good, I must say. But there's a lot of basketball to talk about before we get to the offseason, so let's get it started on the NBA Exchange. All right, we saw a big matchup last night between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Phoenix Suns, and there was a lot of playoff implications on the line, and this was a tight one throughout. The Trail Blazers were 4 seconds away from officially locking up a spot in the top 6 of the Western Conference, but Devin Booker, he had other plans. He had something to say about it as he knocked down 2 late free throws to give the Suns a 1-point victory. Now, with that victory, the Suns moved within 1 game of the Utah Jazz for the top spot in the conference with 2 games left to play.
Just try to make sure we're playing the right way, playing with the right energy, with the right mindset. Coach challenged us to be better on the rebounding tonight. And we only gave up 1 offensive rebound, so that shows that we were building. So each game for us now is a huge learning experience going into the playoffs.
Now, the game didn't just have an impact on the Suns moving closer to that top spot. It also impacted the Blazers. They have to wait at least another day to celebrate clinching a playoff spot. They currently sit 6th position in the Western Conference. The Blazers close out their season on Sunday against the Denver Nuggets, which could be a big matchup. However, if the Lakers lose Saturday as they're sitting right behind the Blazers, they're playing the Pacers on Saturday. Portland will be guaranteed to finish no worse than 6th in the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, the Atlanta Hawks, well, they stayed hot at home. They won their 10th consecutive home game, so they've been doing a great job at State Farm Arena. They had a 118-93 win over the Orlando Magic. As I said, it was their 10th win in a row at home. And home has been good to the Hawks as they have won 18 of their last 20 games at State Farm Arena. Now the win, that victory, it was led behind 27 points from Bogdan Bogdanovic. And with the victory, Atlanta took a big step towards securing the 4th seed and home court advantage in the first round. The Hawks have 1 game left to play on Sunday. That's against the Houston Rockets. And if they win that game and the Heat and Knicks also win their final 2 games, the Hawks will win the Southeast Division and clinch the 4th seed in the East. Udonis Haslem made his season debut as the Miami Heat hosted the Philadelphia 76ers, but that debut didn't last long at all. Haslem was ejected after 3 minutes of play. He got into a scuffle with Sixers center Dwight Howard, and after Howard threw Haslem to the floor, Haslem sat on the court for a little bit. He thought about it, and then he got up. The next whistle, the man who now had appeared in at least 1 game for 18 consecutive seasons, he had to think about it and say, why am I doing this? Why am I here at all? So he got up in the face of Dwight Howard, shoved him, and then he was ejected. Look, I think Udonis Haslem was happy. He got to keep his consecutive games played in the season alive. But, he's 40 years old now. And he's the oldest player in the NBA. He gets out on the court. He played 3 minutes, and he said, you know what? This is enough. I don't need this. I can't run with the young guys. I got nothing to prove. So it seems like one of those situations where he wanted to, A, probably fire his team up, and B, realize there's no need for him to be doing this as much as he's been doing at 40 years old right now. Now, the interesting thing will be to see, will Udonis Haslem come back for a 19th season? He's been around the Heat organization for so long, you got to think he probably doesn't want any more scuffles on the court. He probably thinks he can help the team in another way. We're going to talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics right now. It's been a up and down year for the team in Beantown, and I thought of nobody better to talk to about the Celtics than my man Josue Pavón. Josue works for CLNS Media. How you doing, brother? How's everything going?
I'm good, man. Appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Nah,
I'm
man.
sure you want some explanation as to what the heck happened with this team, huh?
I do. We have a lot to get into in terms of that with this team in Boston. It's been, like I said, it's been an up and down year for them. Now, look, let's get into it right now, Josue. They've lost 4 in a row. Jaylen Brown is now done for the season. Just had the surgery on his wrist. It's definitely been a disappointing year. Any Boston Celtics fans I talk to says it's been a disappointing year. Is there any hope right now of salvaging the season if you're the Boston Celtics?
Very little. I got to be honest here, man. I just don't I don't see, when you look back at the history of the NBA or whatever, however long you've been watching the NBA, this usually isn't the formula. Like if a team isn't putting forth the kind of effort that you're used to seeing, or isn't doing the turnaround, the proverbial, turn the corner that the Celtics thought, it looked like the 6-game winning streak was that, right? This was a few weeks ago. Kemba Walker coming back. He's not playing on the second night of back-to-back, but he's giving you 30 plus a lot of the time throughout that span after the 6-game winning streak. But then the rest of the team just couldn't find that continuity. I mean, yeah, injuries has played a big part in this team all season long. COVID-19 has plagued every single team in the NBA. But for the Celtics, I just think it's been especially difficult when someone like Brad Stevens, he relies on constant practice time. Like, that's where he really likes to implement his system and get guys to really buy in. I just honestly think this team just didn't buy in. Now, I don't know if that means Brad Stevens' future is bleak in Boston. Does that mean he's on the hot seat? I'd say a little bit, definitely. I think everyone can relate to that. I mean, a lot of Celtics fans, they appreciate what Brad has done throughout his tenure, but they're waiting for that next level. And they will really have their hopes set on seeing that happen this year after seeing the Celtics get so close last season and to getting to the NBA Finals. I mean, that's the last step that Brad hasn't taken yet. And when you take into account everything that's happened leading up to this season, that's why it really adds to the disappointment. I mean, 2 all-stars, young all-stars, Jaylen Brown coming into his own, humongous stride this season. I mean, Jason Tatum, another stride, not quite like last year, but, showing everyone that he is an all-star in this league and is going to be a perennial one. And they were just unable to put it together with the pieces around them, and I get it. The Eastern Conference got significantly better, but at the same time, I mean, this is a team that was looking to make that stride. I mean, a lot of fans were looking on that. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, they absolutely were. So, with all that being said, you talked a little bit about Brad Stevens there. You could also look at Danny Ainge here as well, too, when you're talking about what's going on with the Celtics. Who's to blame for what has happened with the Celtics this season?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of like Brad Stevens. You have to put some of the blame on Brad because that's just his job. I mean, and he would tell anyone if you ask him. I mean, like to get energy from these guys night in and night out. I mean, to fall. This is a team that's fallen behind by 20 plus points at least 10 times this season. It's sort of turned into their identity. I want to say over 30 times they've had to erase the deficit. And it's just constantly looking for that consistency that I think falls on Brad Stevens' hands. I mean, he has to find a way to get these guys to not only put forth the right effort, but to find that sort of, I don't know, how do I put this? Like, these guys need to find a space where they can say, okay, maybe we're not stacking up wins, but we're gonna get out to defending the 3 and not giving up so many open shots. We're gonna put forth the kind of effort that puts us in a place that gives us a chance. I mean, I think when a team is constantly falling from behind, has to make a comeback every single night, I just think a lot of that falls on the coach. It falls on that voice just not resonating in that locker room. Now, of course, the team has a lot to do with that, but you look at this roster, 2 perennial all-stars, Kemba Walker, you got a couple of pieces off the bench, Marcus Smart, a 2-time All-NBA defense. I mean, this is a team that should not be under 500.
It should not right now, and right now they're looking at the play-in tournament. They're locked into that in the 7th spot. So how big are these final games of the season for the Celtics and the play-in tournament, specifically for someone like Jason Tatum? He's been looking like he's the guy that's going to have to lead this team right now. This is big if they're going to turn this around in any way in the postseason. So how are you looking to them to close this season with a couple games left in the play-in tournament staring them in the face?
I think they're doing a good job with at least resting Kemba. Like, some fans are wanting to see Kemba not on the second night of back-to-back, or if there's fans out there thinking that could have helped. I mean, I can't say that's like, you can't say that is absolutely true because look at the program he's been on. I mean, it got him to this point. The last 2-3 weeks have been some of the best basketball he's played in the last 2 years. So the Celtics have done a great job with monitoring him. He got that stem cell injection in his knee. That was just for pain only, and he's been able to play through it. And now you go into this play-in tournament, and obviously without Jaylen Brown, it's going to be tough. It's hard. But if you're Jason Tatum, I think this is a great opportunity for you I want to see if he can galvanize these guys. I think Kemba Walker has something to do with that as well. Marcus Smart has been his role, but I want to see more of the vocal side of Jason Tatum.
What's your confidence level at this point that the Celtics can make it past the play-in tournament? Because there's some ways you can look at this and say they might not even make it past the play-in tournament right now, the way they're looking, the way they're playing. Are you confident at all they can get past the play-in tournament and into the playoffs?
Somewhat confident, a little bit. I mean, again, Kemba Walker helps. I think they're doing a good job with resting him, so I'm somewhat confident, but I'm having a tough time, calling the shot, right? I'm having a tough time saying, Celtics, no matter what, hey, yeah, they won't let it get this far. It's just tough. It's tough, Dex. I mean, this whole season's been tough for everyone involved. Players playing every other day, the travel, the schedule. I just think at some point, subconsciously, if you're down by 12 and it's late in the third quarter and, vacation is right around the corner, the first round matchup it's not going to be in your favor. We've seen teams do this in the NBA. Look, I don't know why people think it's such a bad thing. It's not. I don't call it quitting. It's just you reach a certain point where it's just not working. And I think that Celtics have reached that point, I feel like. And I think this weekend, the fact that there's two matinees, the Celtics lost every matinee they played in this year. It's almost poetic. Like the basketball gods are just like, give them two matinees at the end. You know what I mean?
One I remember is one where the Knicks killed them by about 30, and they played the Knicks in their season finale matinee.
And the Knicks away from them, right? And then that was the game I was at TD Garden, and it was just like, what are we doing here, man? These guys get embarrassed because the other side, they smell blood. All right, the word's out. You work your ass off against the Celtics. They're going to coast until the third quarter. They're going to try to bounce back and make the humongous comeback. But if you build enough cushion, you're good. If the three-point shot's not falling, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So I really don't feel good about their chances. I mean, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, barring a humongous night from Kemba, which is very much possible. He's been dropping a lot of 30-plus point performances in the past couple of weeks. And Jason Tatum, if Tatum can have a big night and have those two carry him, I think that's what you're going to see. I mean, defensively, we're not quite sure what we're going to see from this team because, I mean, even 2 nights ago, we saw a different team on defense in the first half, which played great, tremendous effort, and they were still behind, but then came the third quarter and they just felt, that defense
to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That lazy defense, man.
To the Cleveland Cavaliers.
So you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
If you can't wake up for the Cleveland Cavaliers, you're not. Who's to say this team's going to wake up for the Charlotte Hornets, or never mind the first round matchup? Best of 7.
That's a great point there. Who's going to say who they're going to wake up to? Now, this is the question I think a lot of Celtics fans are going to have going into the offseason. Should the Celtics blow it up? Is that going to be? I don't know if that's going to be Danny Ainge, the guy to blow it up. Should somebody else blow this up? And who should they build around if they are going to blow it up?
So the thing about blowing it up with this team, man, they're just in a really tough spot. I mean, the salary cap, Kemba Walker's contract, the max deals are kicking in for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So they're in a really tough spot. I mean, that's why they had to sort of cash in this year in the sense of building that continuity because they knew a lot of these guys will be returning back for next year. Now, Evan Fournier is a humongous question mark. He is a guy that I'm calling a must sign for the Boston Celtics. You have to get this guy to come back. Jaylen Brown, fortunately, we're looking to a 3 to 4 month window, so he should be back by next season. This injury won't go into that. The wrist surgery was a success, so he'll be back in about 3 months. Robert Williams is another big question mark. Again, if you're talking about blowing it up, these are some of the pieces that you're going to either need to keep or need to put on the table. And if they're not healthy, it's really hard for you to blow it up, right? I mean, granted, if you really want to blow things up, Jaylen Brown, there's still plenty of trade value out there for Jaylen, don't get me wrong. But Danny's not ready to do that. He just inked these two max deals. He's been drooling over the next 2 all-stars / superstars for 7 years now, Dex. He's not going to just trade these guys after giving it 1 season. And it was 1 season. That's another thing. This isn't, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals. They know what it takes. They have that experience, but they didn't lead those teams. Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford led those teams. Kyrie Irving led one of those teams. Last year, to a certain extent, they were the leader 1 and 2, but Kemba Walker had a influence on that. Kemba Walker, before he went down or before his injury, he was the one that really carried this team late in a lot of those games that helped the Celtics grab home court advantage before the league shut down and put them in really good standing heading into the bubble. So it's tough to when you talk about, breaking it up, it's tough. I mean, the one guy that a lot of teams or a lot of people are talking about or going to call about is Marcus Smart. I mean, Marcus Smart is a tradable contract, making about $13 million, but he only has 1 year left. So it's tough to trade someone in their contract year. Is there a contender out there that might want Marcus, looking for extra muscle right before the playoffs? Sure, absolutely. But I think if that happens, that's something that happens before the deadline. That's a mid-season deal. So right now, I mean, between the rookies, you still have the mid-level exception, a little bit of that. I think Dane's going to try to see what he can get from that. He got Evan Fournier on the front end, on the back end. You try to pair that with a couple of these bench guys and a couple future picks. I think he's going to try to get maybe, I don't want to say another Evan Fournier type, but one of those mid-level guys,
It's going to be interesting to see.
That's as good as it's going to get, Dex.
As good as it's going to get. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, what he can do if he's still running the show. And I guess the last thing for me, Josue, on this is a couple years ago, you kind of hit on it. Everybody's like, hey, the future's bright for the Celtics. Things look good. They've got these two young stars. They should be ascending. This is a team that can go to the finals. We haven't seen that yet. Sounds like some of the fan base up in Beantown is getting a little bit impatient. Do you still believe the future is bright for the Celtics?
I do, Dex. But let me just say one thing though. This window isn't as big as everyone thinks it is. All right, that's not. Again, this isn't how the NBA works. Superstars, all-stars, whatever you want to call it, they don't say, I would love to be in another situation, but I got a couple more years left on my deal. I got to stay put. No, that doesn't happen, Dex. Trust me on this one. If this team is a 500 team or anywhere near it mid-season next year, one of these guys is going to want out, okay? It's just the way it works. And let's face it, Celtics fans, you don't want to hear it, but you really think these two are that close? Like, do they even talk about each other? Celtics fans were killing me the other night, Dex, because, all right, real quick, I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but before the All-Star break, I was like, these two need to have an uncomfortable conversation and find out what the heck is going on with this team. It's not going to happen on All-Star weekend, but, in a perfect world, I would love for that to happen. And a couple of weeks after the All-Star break, Jaylen talked about them having a conversation over the phone. I say, all right, great, perfect. Shit, maybe they're watching the Guard Report. Who knows? I mean, speaking of, Marcus Smart was so damn mad that we said something about his he can't guard, or he struggles with shifty guards. And he told the Guard Report, and I'm using his words, not mine, to shut the F up. It's crazy, Dex. These guys they get in their feelings when the criticism's at an all-time high. But, I mean, you don't see the two superstars say, you know what, we got this. You know what, I'm an all-star, he's an all-star, don't worry about it, we got this. Or better yet, we believe in Brad Stevens, everyone. So I don't like this talk about, you guys hear all the other criticism. How come you don't address, the Brad Stevens thing? Or how come you don't address the fact that, man, you know what, Jason, if I'm Jason, Jaylen and I, we the two all-stars on this team, we need to figure this thing out. I just don't think, and again, I don't think there's any angst. I don't think it's like they dislike each other. I just feel like they just go in, they clock in, they work, and they go home. And I just don't think that's a recipe for a future championship team. Like, I just think they need to be closer. I think it took 3 or 4 or 5 years for LeBron to be that guy to call up all his teammates and say, hey guys, we're going to work out today. Hey guys, do this. Hey guys, do that. Fully committed on defense, screaming out double teams and stuff like that. I'm waiting for Jason Tatum to reach that level. And I think it's very much attainable. I don't know. I guess I fell into the hype of, he's been to Eastern Conference Finals so many times that this year he's going to be that guy. He wasn't quite that guy. But again, I just think Jason Tatum is very important, but also him and Jaylen's relationship, man. I just think those two, again, they don't need to be best buds hanging out off the court, but they need to be more vocal together. Now, Jaylen can't do it right now, so right now I'm looking at Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to have a lot to do with tying in the future and what kind of culture the players set. A lot of times, like you said, we can just put it on the coaches. But it's
what's
important.
The culture of this team? It used to be defense. It used to be...
now you don't know.
You could be the undefeated Golden State Warriors and walk into TD Garden and might catch an L. Like, that was the Celtics' MO, Yeah, they're not going to finish way above 500, but they're going to give you a tough defensive performance, and that just hasn't been their case. That hasn't been the case all year.
Hasn't been the case all year. As we said at the top, it's been a disappointing one for the Celtics. Nobody better to talk to than the Celtics. And my man, Josue Pavón, reporter, Celtics reporter for CLNS Media. Check out his work. Josue, thank you, my man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, Dex. We'll catch up another time, man, for sure. We got a whole lot to talk about, not just Celtics, NBA, hip-hop, everything, man. We got to catch up.
Always, brother, always. Thank you, man. Appreciate you for joining the NBA Exchange.
Thanks, man. Anytime.